Hi, I'm Jess with Soundings Fine Audio in Denver, Colorado, and today we're going to be discussing the difference between really desirable classic hi-fi gear and stuff that maybe you should just look at replacing. We'll discuss how they age, why you might consider replacing them, or why you might consider refurbishing and keeping those great pieces. Just because you have a piece of equipment that might be 30, 40, even 50 years or more in age, it doesn't mean that you have to replace it. Not all of these components are like a smartphone that gets upgraded every year. Some components are, and we'll get to that. But many of these things provide a personality and a flavor to the music that may not be easily replicated in other ways. Just like a classic car may have a look that just isn't around today, or maybe the roar of a big bore V8 engine is not like a quiet 4-cylinder gas sipper today. You just have some things that you can't really quantify. They just bring an enjoyment level that is just hard to put words to. You just like it better. But likewise, that old car, while it may really give you some of the feels, there's just no way that a 50-year-old suspension in a car is going to handle like modern shocks and struts. There are just some things that we figured out along the way that does make some modern gear better. So let's break this down by component category, and we'll go over the broad strokes one by one to help you determine whether it's going to be better to keep what you have because you love the sound, or whether you should explore and see what technology has given us over these last decades. So starting with speakers, the obvious place to look at is going to be the tweeters, mid-range, and woofers. Many vintage and older speakers are going to have pieces that just didn't stand the test of time. They didn't expect people to be able to keep these as heirloom products. Maybe the surround of the woofer is made out of foam instead of modern butyl rubber surrounds. Maybe the tweeter has a type of cloth that is now hardened and doesn't have the suppleness that it did when it was first created. A lot of older tweeters may have had ferrofluid that has leaked out the back and you can't even tell that it's gone. Everything is still technically functioning, but definitely isn't up to what the original spec was when it left the factory floor. The trick with a vintage speaker, and if you do have capacitors that have gone bad and you do have resistors that might need to be replaced, you want to keep in mind that some of these vintage components actually contribute to the sound. And so there's a real dividing line in the refurbishment community and the DIY community about what to do about this. Many people feel that if you put modern capacitors and modern resistors, modern components in general, inside a vintage speaker, you will get really big improvements because those components are made better now than they were in the 60s or 70s. Other people would argue, though, that the sound that those original speakers had were because of those older components. And so you kind of have to decide for yourself whether you're wanting to rebuild this thing for the long haul so that you can enjoy it for another 50 years, or whether it's something that you're trying to recapture what that original sound was. There's lots of information out there in the DIY community about which path might be right for you. It doesn't take a whole lot of research for some of the most classic pieces. If you just want to get the speakers refreshed, you don't have to go into really deep waters on components. But there are a lot of believers in really high-end parts where you might be able to unlock a new level of sound of your favorite speaker. When it comes to electronics, specifically amplifiers, preamplifiers, integrated amps, receivers, there are many things to consider. The oldest equipment, the thing you want to look at are volume level controls, the actual potentiometer, bass and treble controls, loudness controls, anything that has a knob on it. Many of those old potentiometers will start to oxidize and rust internally. One of the easiest ways to clean up these potentiometers is with deoxit spray. There are many different ways to do this. You can use high-grade isopropyl alcohol, but you want to do some checking. You don't want to just spray anything in there, but many vintage devices are perfectly safe with deoxit. A quick spray of that and a twist of the knob will really help a lot of things. There are some fragile components that may not react well to this, so be advised before you go inside your own component. The capacitors may also have aged poorly. If you look at the top of a capacitor, oftentimes you'll see oil leaking or a bulge. These are signs that it may not be working the way it was supposed to originally. That can result in buzzes, hums, lack of power. It can do all kinds of stuff in there. If you have some really classic components, maybe from Marantz or Accuphase, just to name a few, there are whole industries based around bringing these pieces back to life. Some older components just may not be worth it. There is a point where newer pieces just have better sound. There's a reason we don't do point-to-point wiring anymore. We've shrunken the size of the circuits and put them on much smaller circuit boards that are made out of potentially better material with components that are smaller. That allows for a much shorter circuit path. So even though you have an old piece that may be serviceable, it may have given you years and years of enjoyment, if you compare it to even something fairly entry level today, you might be shocked at how much of an improvement you can actually find. So this is something that you're going to have to decide personally. Are you just in love with the sound that you have, or are you trying to see what's the next level of detail in the music that's available? A quick demo is all you need. Many stores, including Soundings, you can bring in your equipment and we're happy to A/B it. You can find out right there on the spot. If you're local to us or local to your store, you may be able to have them do an in-home demo. I'm always happy to bring out any of our equipment for a quick A/B or an afternoon of music so that you can just find out on your own system. You don't have to take my word for it. We will put it in your system. You understand all of the variables involved, and we just change this one thing so that you know that all of these changes in sound were due to this one component. And you can make an educated decision. So the next thing to discuss is modern technology. What kind of changes have come down the pipeline that would make you want to explore new stuff anyway? With speakers, there are a couple simple things. We've already kind of touched on crossover components. So a lot of new speakers are going to have these brand new components right out of the gate. High-end speakers, that's a big part of what you're paying for. Cabinet construction. They're using different kinds of wood. Some companies use very exotic materials to build their cabinets. Tweeter, woofer, mid-range construction. Some of these are built with robots. The gluing systems and the type of material that go into these is just better in a lot of cases. I mean, they're just things that weren't made back in the 60s, 70s, or 80s. Carbon fiber and composite materials is a really, really simple one. Even with paper drivers, they found new combinations of binding units and pulp paper to make sure that we have the ultimate stiffness, the lightest it can possibly be, and the most natural tone. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. When it comes to electronics, we have shorter signal paths. We have robots that actually pick and place smaller components so that we don't have to go in and out of these old style components that age poorly. Everything is much tighter. Just having a smaller signal path is enough to lower the noise floor and improve your imaging, improve bass, improve basically every aspect. I find that a lot of the airiness and big sound stages that we associate with modern systems comes from a lot of these new modern designs. Digital components are uniquely different. The reason they're so different is because they're basically computers. We're not talking about taking a small audio signal and just blowing it up. In this case, we're taking a bunch of ones and zeros, a bunch of digital information, and we have to translate it from that ones and zeros into a waveform that we can actually hear. And just like modern computers, laptops, desktops, cell phones, just like that stuff has gotten a lot better, the whole digital world of audio has improved at least as much. So if you have a streamer that might be 10 or 15 years old, or some of the oldest DACs for CDs go back into the 80s, it's like comparing your modern computer to your top-of-the-line computer in the 80s or 90s. It just doesn't compare. There may be some sound signatures that you just enjoy, but when it comes to accuracy, in pretty much every way, a newer streamer, a newer DAC, newer networking component will outperform the old. And particularly for the dollar. A lot of times, what might have been top-of-the-line 5 or 10 years ago, an entry-level or mid-level component may give that a run for its money. Again, a quick demo is all you need to determine whether this upgrade makes sense for you. Analog components are a different animal. Analog, like turntables specifically, and tape decks and reel-to-reels for those real hardcore audiophiles, but we'll just stick with turntables for the moment. Those devices are fairly straightforward and simple. These do not age the same way as a lot of other things. For turntables specifically, if it's still holding speed, and your tone arm bearings are still swinging smoothly, it just comes down to how many hours are on your cartridge. The fundamental action of how turntables work hasn't really changed in the last 70 years. We really build them the same. What happens in a newer piece of analog equipment is we have more advanced motors that are able to hold really good speed control. We have higher quality bearings available for less money to make sure that everything swings across. We have smaller components available for cartridges to be able to get a higher fidelity cartridge for less money. but fundamentally they work the same. So if you have a turntable that you may have inherited from somebody, you may be able to work with that. I recently had a client bring in his father's Lynn LP12. He was from Scotland, and his father bought the LP12 back in 1982. His father passed away several years ago, and this turntable has been in storage since the early 2000s. So nearly 25 years, this turntable had not been used. And to make things even more complicated, it had a UK power plug on it. It had a power supply that was wired for that voltage. And so I had a unique task of bringing this thing back to life. I was able to rewire the power supply. We got him a new power cord, and we were able to get this running on 120 volts. All the bearings of his tone arm were fantastic, and the cartridge even worked. So here we have a 40-year-plus turntable that not only works, but actually sounds incredible. It still competes with modern turntables. And in the case of this Lynn LP12, we have access to all kinds of parts to modernize this specific piece. And this is a great example of many turntables. We often have people come in and say, this was my father's or grandfather's or uncle's or whoever's turntable, and we really have a lot of sentimental attachment to it, and I'd love to be able to use it, but is it worth putting in with my nice stereo? And yeah, it probably is. We put a new cartridge on these all the time and refresh them and put it back to work. So that's a unique corner of the audio industry where you can get the most amount of years out of a system as long as it's well maintained. So to kind of tie this all together, should you upgrade a component just because it's old? Or maybe another way to say this is, when does it make sense to update? And I would say it's the first time you have that thought jump in your mind. That's when I would start exploring it. Even if you have a really desirable Grail level piece, I think it's good to keep a level head and be aware of what kinds of sounds are out there. I mean, if you're really into music, if you're really into stereo, there's always new technology. And even today, after being in the industry for 25 years plus, I am still shocked at how we can make a CD that I've heard forever sound better. It just blows my mind. So if you're curious about what kind of sounds are out there, explore it. Let your ears and your heart be your guide. You will know it if this upgrade is worth it. So whether we're talking about a new digital piece, whether we're talking about upgrading your amp and preamp, whether you want to see what new speakers are capable of, I say go for it. You will know right away. You'll know what the right decision is. Since we're talking about systems that may be older than your children, we want to know what you've got. So if you have the time, please put in the comments, share with us what kind of things you have that you just would not get rid of. It's really fun to see what kind of things are still out there in the field, what kind of things are still bringing joy after all of these years. Likewise, if you're not sure whether it's a Grail component, if you're not sure what would be comparable today, leave that in the comments. We can give you some help and guide you around. If you're in the Denver area, bring the component by the shop or give us a call, and I'm happy to bring something comparable out, and we can do a shootout and just see how the dust settles. As always, thanks so much for watching. We have more videos coming your way. Be sure and like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next video.